Hashtag POV. You discover the 25 forgotten wealth rules Wall Street doesn't want you to know. It's 1961. You're a Western Union dispatcher in Beloit, Wisconsin, and you just sent your last telegram at 58 years old. Your final salary was $5,800 a year. You own your house free and clear. You own a fishing cabin you bought for $650 in cash. No loan, no lien, no lawyer. Your savings passbook reads $19,300. You have never opened a brokerage account. You have never met a financial planner. You have never carried a balance on anything except the mortgage you signed in 1948, and that mortgage has been dead for 6 years. You don't call yourself rich. You call yourself clear. Clear of the bank. Clear of the payment book. Clear of anyone with a claim on your Tuesday mornings. You built this life on one paycheck and a stack of habits so plain you never once wrote them down. Most people around you don't have these habits anymore. You built wealth without a broker in the room, not with stocks, not with margin, not with anyone downtown taking a cut. You built it with structure, small, repeated, almost boring structure, handed down by parents who watched a bank padlock a barn door in 1931 and never spoke of it again without lowering their voice. Those habits paid off your house on an income that wouldn't cover a modern car payment. Most people let go of every one of them the day the revolving credit line arrived wearing the word convenience. You never did. This was never about being poor. This was engineering. Every dollar that came through your door had a job before it hit the counter. When Wall Street arrived selling participation, get in the market, let your money work. Most people mistook a casino floor for a savings account. You didn't. Rule 22 on this list costs nothing extra and still shaves 8 years off the average 1950s mortgage. Rule 14 was flagged in a 1969 Senate Banking Subcommittee memo as the single biggest drag on consumer lending growth, and the industry spent the next 15 years quietly writing it out of the paperwork. And Rule 1, the rule that built more working-class net worth than every mutual fund sold in the 20th century combined, takes about the length of a coffee break to explain. It always has. These 25 rules were never about going without. They're about ownership versus rental, the difference between owning your own life outright and making a monthly payment on the illusion of one. Hit subscribe and step into 25 lives that were built, one rule at a time, on wealth Wall Street never wanted you to find. Rule 25, the envelope system. You're a linotype operator in Terre Haute, Indiana. Every Friday you cash your paycheck and split it into 6 paper envelopes on the kitchen table. Rent, food, coal, clothing, church, savings. Nothing leaves an envelope for something another envelope was meant to cover. By 1958, the method has a name in bank training manuals: leakage prevention. The banks don't teach it to you. They study you to understand why you borrow so little. Rule 24, the Thursday inventory. You're a seamstress in Duluth, Minnesota. You check your pantry and icebox every Thursday night before writing Friday's shopping list. You buy only what the inventory proves is missing. The supermarket chains are already testing end cap placement to trigger your unplanned purchases. You've never read a marketing report. You read your own shelves. Rule 23, the 72-hour rule. You're a boilermaker in Sheboygan, Wisconsin. You wait 3 full days before any purchase over $4 that wasn't already on the week's list. Across 11 years, you track what you skip in a small notebook, $460 in near misses. Retail in the 1950s runs on manufactured urgency. Today only, last one on the shelf. 72 hours dissolves every bit of it. Rule 22, the sealed December jar. You're a trolley conductor in Muncie, Indiana. You drop $1 into a coffee can every payday starting in January. By December, the can holds $26, spent entirely on the holidays, in cash. Not 1 cent of December follows you into the new year. The banks will quietly phase out the Christmas Club account model by the mid-1980s. Once revolving credit proves more profitable than a jar full of dollar bills. Rule 21. The cash-only week. You're a die caster in Anderson, Indiana. Once each spring, you run your household on cash only for 7 days, no exceptions. Handing over actual bills makes every price visible in a way a signed slip never could. You always find a leak you hadn't noticed. Paper money, doesn't lie to you the way a number on a receipt does. Rule 20. The raise freeze. You're a foundry inspector in Kokomo, Indiana. When your annual raise comes, usually $3 to $6 a week in the early 1950s, your household budget doesn't move an inch. Every extra dollar goes straight to savings. Your standard of living in 1959 looks identical to 1951. Your bank balance does not. The raise was never a reward. It's reinforcement for the wall you're already building. Rule 19. The single extra payment. You're a pressman in Wheeling, West Virginia. Every January, you mail one extra mortgage payment marked principal only. 9 consecutive years of this habit cuts 10 years off your 25-year loan and saves you roughly $5,900 in interest at 1954 rates. By the late 1970s, most lenders will bury the principal-only option deep in the fine print because a borrower who uses it stops paying interest early, and interest is the product. Rule 18. No furniture on time. You're a plasterer in Altoona, Pennsylvania. You buy furniture used, in cash, once. When a chair leg cracks in 1963, your wife glues and clamps it herself for nothing. Furniture financing in this era runs 18 to 28% annually. A $250 sofa on payments could quietly cost $310. You never carry the difference. You carry the sofa. Rule 17. The pre-planned week of meals. You're a boiler tender's wife in Racine, Wisconsin. You plan all 7 dinners every Sunday afternoon on an index card taped inside the cupboard door. Monday's roast becomes Wednesday's stew. The plan eliminates the single most expensive moment in your food budget, standing in the kitchen at 6 o'clock with nothing decided, and a diner 3 blocks away. Here's the number that should stop you. In 1959, your median working-class household carries $210 in consumer debt, not mortgage debt, everyday debt. Adjusted for inflation, that same household today carries close to $15,800. Wages climb. Debt climbs faster. That gap doesn't open because people get careless. It opens because an entire financial architecture is rebuilt between 1965 and 1990 to make a monthly payment feel like a form of ownership. It isn't. It never was. Rule 16. Repair before replace. You're a machine shop foreman in Reading, Pennsylvania. You fix what can be fixed. A dryer belt snaps in 1957, 19 cents of rubber, and an hour of your Saturday, not a new dryer. Across 2 decades, this single habit keeps an estimated $380 out of the appliance stores and inside your passbook. Rule 15. The Moonlight Ledger. You're a rail yard brakeman in Elmira, New York. You take weekend fence and roof repair jobs from March through October, $6 to $9 a job. Every dollar goes straight to your mortgage principal. By 1961, that side money has knocked off 19 months of payments. You never call it a second job. You call it buying back your own Saturdays faster. Rule 14. The one-car household. You're a file clerk in Fort Wayne, Indiana, and you and your husband share a single 1949 Plymouth for the first 9 years of your marriage. Avoiding a second car saves roughly $310 a year in insurance, fuel, and upkeep, every cent routed to the mortgage. By 1970, 2-car households will outnumber 1-car households nationwide for the first time. You've already burned your mortgage papers in the yard by then. Rule 13. The children's ledger lesson. You're 13 years old in Middletown, Ohio, and you just started a paper route. Half your earnings go to you, and half go into a jar marked house. $60-some over 4 years lands on the principal. The amount barely matters. What matters is you learning the house is a project the whole family is running together, not something that simply arrived with the furniture. Rule 12, the pre-funded tax account. You're a press operator in Hamilton, Ohio. You set aside $4 every week in an account marked taxes, matching the annual property bill almost to the penny. The bill is never an emergency. It's a scheduled withdrawal. Modern escrow accounts will exist largely because lenders discover that separating this payment from your discipline reduces the delinquencies they're absorbing, a fix for a habit you never lost in the first place. Rule 11, the biennial insurance audit. You're a switchman in York, Pennsylvania. Every other year, you sit down with your agent and review every policy line by line, dropping coverage on anything already paid off. The audits return an average of $38 a year, routed straight to the mortgage. Most households sign once and never look again. You look every time, and the bank notices nothing, because there's nothing left to notice. A 1967 University of Michigan behavioral study follows 3,200 working-class households that paid off a mortgage in under 15 years. Households just like yours. Researchers expect to find higher incomes. They find the opposite, median earnings 8% below the national average. What they find instead is volume, an average of 19 distinct small habits running at once in every household studied. No single habit matters. The stack of them does. The study runs in one regional journal, gets cited twice, and disappears. The mortgage industry that expands through the 1970s is built on exactly the opposite premise. Borrow long, refinance often, treat debt as permanent furniture. Rule 10, the vacation that stayed local. You're a boiler operator in Bethlehem, Pennsylvania, and your family spends every summer from 1955 to 1962 at a creek 11 miles from home. Sandwiches in a basket, home by dinner. The $70 you don't spend on a motel goes to the mortgage every August. 8 summers, $560 in principal, 11 months shaved off your loan. Rule 9, utility discipline. You're a tool grinder in Allentown, Pennsylvania. You turn off every light leaving a room, keep the thermostat at 61 degrees overnight, and hang laundry outdoors 9 months of the year. Compared with the identical house next door, your monthly utility bill runs about $5.80 lower. Over a decade, that gap alone puts more into your mortgage than your entire first year of payments. Rule 8, the used car code. You're a signalman in Springfield, Illinois. You buy only used cars, only in cash, and drive each one until it stops moving. Your 1954 Chevrolet, bought for $580, runs until 1968. Your neighbor finances a new car every 3 years and spends nearly triple what you spend across the same stretch. The difference retires 2 full years of your mortgage in lump sums. A house builds wealth. A car burns it. You never confuse the two. Rule 7. Refuse to co-sign. You're a rigger in Peoria, Illinois. You won't put your name on any loan that isn't your own. Not your brother-in-law's truck, not your cousin's tavern lease. A co-sign loan is a hidden liability sitting on a balance sheet you've spent over a decade making airtight. In the 1950s, a co-signed loan quietly wrecks more working-class households than almost any other single financial instrument, because the risk stays invisible until the day it isn't. You never refuse unkindly. You simply say, "Not on my books." Rule 6. First dollar out before the bank sees it. Asterisk asterisk. You're an assembly hand in Saginaw, Michigan. You give 10% of every paycheck to your church before a single bill is paid, not after. The habit trains the same muscle that later pays your mortgage first and funds your tax jar without being asked twice. You learned it from your father for free, no seminar required. The first dollar out was never really yours to spend. That's exactly what kept the rest of it yours. Rule 5. The family lending circle. You're a bricklayer in Scranton, Pennsylvania. When you need $420 for a roof in 1958, You borrow it from your brother at no interest, repaid over 11 months. A bank loan would have carried roughly $40 in interest, money that instead goes straight onto your mortgage. Your neighborhood runs an informal lending circle entirely outside the banking system, funding down payments and emergencies interest-free. The banks call it primitive. You call it family. Rule 4. Pay the mortgage first, always. You're a welder in Joliet, Illinois. Every payday, before groceries, before the electric bill, you write the mortgage check first. Whatever's left has to cover everything else, never the reverse. Paying last means paying from whatever survives the month. Paying first means paying from certainty. Your check is never the largest number in your budget. It's simply the first one written. Rule 3. The written finish line. You're a machinist in Waterloo, Iowa. You keep a single index card taped inside your toolbox. Mortgage clear, 1966. Balance, $3,180. You update the number every January. When it hits zero in October 1965, a year early, you write "done" across it in pencil and pin it beside the deed. Seeing the finish line on an ordinary Tuesday makes every dollar legible. This one moves toward the card. That one moves away from it. The card was never a wish. It was an address you were driving to. Rule 2. Oh no, man. For words. Not manage debt wisely. Not use credit strategically. Oh, no, man. If cash can't buy it, you don't buy it, with one exception. The house. Because a house builds equity and nothing else on this list does. You're a postal sorter in Kokomo, Indiana, and you inherited that rule from a father who watched the bank take the family's 40 acres for $400 unpaid dollars in 1932. You carry the rule for 39 years and retire owing nothing to any institution in the country. It's a blunt rule. It's an unglamorous rule. It built more working-class wealth than every product ever sold out of a downtown brokerage window. Rule 1. Spend less than you earn. That's the entire rule. No envelope, no jar, no ledger required to state it. Just brutal, unfashionable consistency, applied every single week, until the gap between the two numbers becomes the savings, the payoff, the deed sitting in your drawer. You, the dispatcher in Beloit we started with, you weren't running 24 separate systems. You were running one, so consistently that 24 smaller habits arranged themselves around it without you ever writing them down. You spent less than you earned. Every rule on this list was simply a channel carrying that one fact somewhere useful. None of it required a finance degree or a downtown office with a view. It required attention, the willingness to look at your paycheck the way a carpenter looks at a stack of lumber. Material, not magic. You understood something Wall Street has spent 70 years trying to make everyone forget, that ownership is not the same thing as access, that a house with no lien against it is worth more than a leveraged portfolio, even when the number on paper looks identical, and that the ability to walk away from a bad year without asking anyone's permission is the only definition of wealth that has ever mattered to the person actually living it. You were never afraid to spend. You just understood exactly what spending cost, not just in dollars, but in days owed to somebody else. Every dollar sent to a lender was a day that belonged to the lender. Every dollar you kept was a day that belonged to you. You'd been buying your days back since 1931. By 1961, you owned every single one of them. The habits still work. The arithmetic hasn't changed even slightly. What's changed is the voice, smoother now, better funded, everywhere at once, insisting the old rules are quaint, that leverage is sophistication, that a monthly payment is access rather than debt. That voice has never been neutral. It has a very clear interest in which answer you choose. You never needed that voice. You had a coffee can, a paycheck, and 30 years of knowing exactly what each dollar was for. Wall Street has had no claim on your house since 1961. That's what you built. That's what got forgotten. And it's still exactly as buildable now as it was on a Friday afternoon in Beloit, Wisconsin, 60-some years ago.